It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. It's that time once again for your daily Torment report. Well, no, actually, it's time for your daily Fury report, and then we'll get into the daily Torment report. I have almost too much to report today. Initially, it's interesting. Initially, I was thinking about doing like a teaching today on the chiastic structure of Revelation, because I have some really interesting things. You know how we've been studying the seven seals and how the chiastic structure informed what seal number 5 is. Well, there's a whole chiastic structure to the book of Revelation, to where, if you start at each end and work towards the middle, that's why the Revelation 12 sign is right in the center of the book. I was planning on going through a teaching on that, but we have so much news and so many things to cover. I honestly don't think we're even going to get to it. So just something to look forward to when we do get a chance to take a breath and look at the scripture and go through some structure on things. So let's get started with our Fury Minute. A fire broke out Friday at a wood workshop inside a military barracks in Tehran, per Iran's army statement. They say it was contained quick, no injuries, and blame an electrical fault. Of course, they won't admit, but Iran's rebellious youth are claiming credit for most of the explosions and fires popping off around the country lately. Really? Is that why YouTubers are starting to report that Iran is under attack? I've got a couple of videos of those that I was going to play. Be interesting if it's just kids setting off fires. Although, there's been so much. Yeah, there's been so much in Iran. It wouldn't surprise me if they're not doing that in order to kind of get attention. Who knows? Saudi Arabia confirms Ramadan 2026 to begin February 18th, after the moon sighting. Cuba received aid from Mexico today. A Russian warship arrived in Iran today to continue Iranian and Russian military exercises in the Strait. Boy, howdy, isn't that interesting? I read an article today, or actually it was a post on X, that Vladimir Putin offered Donald Trump $12 trillion to drop all sanctions. Boy, at the rate we're going, he's going to have the debt of the USA paid off before his first year. by a second year. We'll just put it that way. I think we're already past his first year. Let's see. J.D. Vance says Iran still won't accept Donald Trump's red lines after the Geneva talks. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has instructed the Israeli Homefront Command to prepare for a potential war with Iran. Israeli media reported Wednesday evening. The newspaper added that a state of maximum alert has been declared across various Israeli security agencies. Let's see. Libya has opened an investigation into the killing of Gaddafi. Seems Hillary may have more to answer for, like her famous quote of, "We came, we saw, he died." Ugh. Let's see. Man in tactical vest with loaded shotgun arrested after charging the U.S. Capitol. Police say an 18-year-old in a tactical vest who charged the U.S. Capitol with a loaded shotgun Tuesday was quickly arrested. U.S. Capitol Police said. Police identified the man as Carter Camacho of Smyrna, Georgia. Yeah, it seems like we've had a couple of crazy people come out of Georgia. What are they putting in the water down there, guys? Let's see. Instead, he acted alone. They are working to determine a motive. Voters in New York City are stunned by property and income tax hikes as Mamdani shows them what communism is really about. Breaking news, evacuation orders are being issued as multiple wildfires rip through Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Yeah, that's some of the news that I have to cover today. Is the world doesn't know what it wants to do right now. In some places, we're dealing with raging wildfires. In other places, we're dealing with literal what do you call them? Ice volcanoes, where we have volcanoes that are shooting ice out of them. And then in California, we had an avalanche that killed 9 skiers. So it's like, what? I guess we're in it, right? Woodward County, Oklahoma is under evacuation orders, while Beaver, Texas, and Hartley counties are on high alert. Really? Senator Schumer files bill to give pride flag same federal protections as the U.S. flag. Say what? How about no? They don't even enforce the protections on the U.S. flag. Could you imagine if they added the same federal protection to the pride flag and then started to enforce it when people did anything to it, and they're not even willing to enforce when somebody does something to the American flag? How about no? Let's see. Today, Rubio had a secret talk with Raul Castro about the future of Cuba today. As usual, Cuba, being one of the poorest countries in the world, is run by one of the richest families who operates one of the major cartels in our hemisphere. If you heard Tucker was detained in Israel, it isn't so. He was only being stopped for security checks as anyone else would be, not detained or arrested. Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change the times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times. Trump's got a speech ready for an alien announcement, big question mark. Yeah, I keep hearing that. On one hand, I hear it's fake. On the other hand, I hear it's actually going forward, so we'll see. Laura Trump says, yeah, he does, waiting for the right time. Our government's long considered a speech to rally us against some external threat. Reagan said it in his 87 UN speech. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And finally, the rebellious youths are not kids. They are people under the age of about 50 who oppose the current regime and are determined to take their country back. Yes, indeed. Did anybody watch the Y-Files about Project Anchor? So if you didn't get a chance, I'm going to spoil it for you. Yesterday, I teased you with a Y-Files episode that talked about August 12th, 2026, where it's been leaked by the government that they're expecting to lose gravity on that day. What's interesting about losing gravity on that day is that is one of the candidates for the magnetic pole shift. So I guess it's entirely possible that when the magnetic pole shift happens, that we could actually lose gravity. I don't think there's anything written about it in the scripture other than being caught up together with the Lord in the air. But if you watched all the way through to the end of that Y-Files, he said that there's no credible evidence that there was actually a leaked report and that NASA hasn't been aware of this since 2019. However, I do find it interesting that 2019 was picked because that was when we first started to see the seals open up and the events of those seals start to take place on the Earth. So who knows? Basically, it sounds like the report came from a story on one of the forums, like Reddit, talking about losing gravity. So who knows? Maybe it was something that, you know how these things tend to go viral. There's no credible information to support the validity of losing gravity on that particular day, but it was a good episode. And I found it rather curious that it just happened to pick the day that fits the pattern of the chiastic structure pointing to the opening of seal number 6. So we'll see. As far as did seal number 5 open up yesterday? By all accounts, it looks like it did. And it looks like seal number 5 is war with Iran. You've got Russia joining in exercises with Iran. They're a major world superpower. You have Jerusalem joining with the United States. Both of those are world superpowers. China's in the mix in there. And things are escalating. So as always with these signs, just the opening, the actual sign is indicating a change of events, right? It's the beginning of a new period of time, and these things tend to ramp up. So, for instance, the opening of seal number 2, while it was the day that they declared Joe Biden to be the winner of the presidential election, and it was the first day that he gave the vaccine, it was not the day that peace was taken from the earth. But one of the elements of seal number 2 was the power to take peace from the earth. That was something that ramped up over time as conflicts began to take root, and we're still suffering the effects of that seal number 2 being open because Russia and Ukraine are still at each other's throats. So that's just so you know what to expect with opening of seal number 5. By all accounts, I'm still of the opinion that that was marking the opening of seal number 5. It's just too much of a coincidence with the what's going on with Iran, and we're literally looking at the players of end time events, so it still seems to fit. Now, is there any particular event that actually marks the start of it? I don't know. That's questionable. You know, the interesting thing about the first 4 seals is they had living creatures saying, "Come and see." For a while, I thought that meant that we would be out of here by seal number 5, in that we would have been raptured away because we would no longer be around for something to say, "Come and see." But it may very well be that, you know, once you're aware of where you are in the timeline, now it's more a matter of preparation. You know, now's the time to fill that lamp of yours, that oil, waiting for the bridegroom, and be ready always for that messenger to come and say, "Now it's time." So I feel like we're kind of in the holding pattern. Another way of putting it, it feels like maybe we're in the throes of the labor pains. So definitely expect things to escalate from here, but ultimately you're going to end up with a newborn or a wedding. You get what I'm talking about. All right, let us move on to our daily torment report.
Through trials faced, through testing days, you've kept my word, walked in my ways. Though strength was small, you held your ground. The door I've opened cannot be bound. They turned away, they closed their eyes, but I have written what none denies. Through fleeting fear and fleeting shame, you stood for truth, upheld my name. Hold fast, your crown is sure. The door I've opened will stand secure. A pillar raised in the temple of my God, forever sealed, forever strong. The strength you've shown, the words you've kept, through every storm, through tears you wept. Though they may mock, though they may strive, the truth you carry keeps hope alive.
All right, here we are on Donald Trump's timeline. So this is his pinned truth. This is just about passing the Voter Act. We're well aware of that. 37 minutes ago, the United States trade deficit has been reduced by 78% because of the tariffs being charged to other companies and countries. It will go into positive territory during this year. For the first time in many decades, thank you for your attention to this matter. That is amazing. You know, and if he does actually take Putin up on the $12 trillion deal, like, can you imagine what it'd be like? A $37 trillion deficit. I don't think anyone on the planet thought it was possible to even pay that pay that kind of deficit down. And man, Trump is dude knows how to make money. That is definitely, he's got skills. Trump's got skills. Never in a million years. Who knows if he'll put the money towards it? Who knows if he'll even accept it? But sure is fun to know that it's available. All right. Let's see. Will be the greatest ballroom ever built. Now rising at the site of the White House, fully paid for by American Patriot donors. Zero costs to our United States taxpayers. You know, with all this building, and even with the building of the temple, one of the reasons why I push back about the building of the temple in Israel is when you look at all of the events of the end times that are written about in the book of Revelation, not a lot of buildings are going to be left standing when all is said and done. So think about it. You have the magnetic pole shift, right? Which the North Pole and the South Pole are going to rotate down to the equator, possibly. And then we recently learned that bowl number 7 could be bringing back the single landmass Pangea. Now, whether that's a receding of the water to expose dry land under the oceans, or if it's the tectonic plates moving, which I believe is probably more likely based on the description, because it says that the islands and the mountains are no longer around. They're moved out of their it's more than just moved out of their place. They're no longer exist. So for a mountain to no longer exist, it seems like some movement of the earth needs to take place. So even with the building of this ballroom, and even if they do build the temple on the mount, who knows if it'll survive. Anyway, moving on. I've been telling Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom that leases are no good when it comes to countries, and that he is making a big mistake by entering a 100-year lease with whoever it is that is claiming right, title, and interest to Diego Garcia, strategically located in the Indian Ocean. Our relationship with the United States is a strong and powerful one. United Kingdom, sorry. Is a strong and powerful one, and it has been for many years. But Prime Minister Starmer is losing control of this important island by claims of entities never known of before. In our opinion, they are fictitious in nature. Should Iran decide not to make a deal, it may be necessary for the United States to use Diego Garcia and the airfield located in Fairford in order to eradicate a potential attack by a highly unstable and dangerous regime, an attack that would potentially be made on the United Kingdom, as well as other friendly countries. Prime Minister Starmer would not lose control for any reason of Diego Garcia by entering a tenuous, at best, 100-year lease. This land should not be taken away from the United Kingdom, and if it is allowed to be, it will be a blight on our great ally. We will always be ready, willing, and able to fight for the UK, but they have to remain strong in the face of wokeism and other problems put before them. Do not give away Diego Garcia. With the invasion of Islam in the UK, I wonder how long they're going to remain our allies. That's an interesting thing to have to think about these days. Let's see. 12 hours ago from Tony, Trump is an incredible grandfather. I imagine he is. All right, we got a video.
To me, he's just a normal grandpa. He gives us candy and soda when our parents aren't looking. On Saturday, I was shocked when I heard that he has been shot. And I just want to know if he was okay.
Make American great again.
That was great, honey.
Vote for Grandpa.
Let's go. Come on, let's go have a good time.
Is he allowed to respond?
They don't respond, yeah.
I mean, with all that gear on too? Imagine that in Florida right now in 90-degree weather.
See? That's Barry. He's strong, he's smart, he's tough, he's vicious, he's violent. All of the ingredients you need. It's been a tremendous time, and now it's time to go back home. My daughter had a baby. I'm going to go back home and see that little baby.
I'm such a sap for this kind of stuff.
Years ago, my father sat our family down. He spoke of a nation in decline.
Oh my goodness, that reminds me of a short from Charlie Kirk. You guys are
check this out. So I'm particularly concerned about your brand of Christianity as a...
Oh no, that's not the one I was thinking of. I'll have to look for it and play it again later. But he was talking about the formation, the United States of America representing, what God had intended for a nation. Where is that? Did I not keep it? Oh darn. See if I have it on my phone. Such a good quote. It was such a good way of putting it. No, I didn't save it. Darn. Well, it'll have to come back up again later. Oh well. All right, let's keep moving on. That reminds me of, the ideal American. That's what got me thinking about what Charlie Kirk had said about America. Let me paraphrase. So there's a video of him talking about America being unique in the entire world. So much so that when immigrants or when people from other parts of the world visit, there's a bit of a culture shock if they're not prepared, because things like personal protections, not killing people, and a system of justice. America represents, it's built upon the principles that are in the scripture, and not every country, no other country, according to Charlie Kirk, is founded like the United States is. And when they come here, it's people get to see the love of God in reality, even with all the bad things, even with the fighting with the left and the right. Can you imagine, what it's like in North Korea, where you have no rights? You don't even have access to food. You're lucky if you get your portion of food that you're allotted, and you don't do anything to jeopardize your life or the life of your family. Likewise in other countries, that serve other gods and serve other scriptures that have no concept of a system of justice or personal rights or even female rights. In many places, women are second-class citizens, where in the United States, people are treated equally for all intents and purposes. All right, moving on. From Michelle Maxwell, he understands the power of President Trump in regards to global and economic stability and isn't afraid to say so.
My relationship with the president, hey, listen, if somebody is doing good stuff, and President Trump is doing a lot of good stuff, I believe. I know I'm irritating a lot of you again, but I think so. Because, as I said also in Davos, the 2% reached by all NATO countries now at the end of 2025 would never, ever, ever have happened without Trump. Do you really think that Spain and Italy and Belgium and Canada would have decided to move from 1.5 to 2%? Italy spending 10 billion more now on defense at the beginning of the year without President Trump? No way, it would not have happened. And do you really think that in The Hague we would have come to the 5% commitment without President Trump? No way. So when President Trump is doing good stuff, I will praise him. And I don't mind him publishing text messages. And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. For the US to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need a secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are planning for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. Good luck.
Pass the SAVE Act, make this go viral. President Trump just posted this on Truth in 1996. Chuck Schumer wanted IDs and social security cards to stop illegal immigrants away from voting. Oh boy, how they have changed.
Let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a social security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a social security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Good old Chuck. Let's see, from the SCIF. In the 2020 election, states using Dominion voting machines allegedly switched 435,000 votes from Trump to Biden and deleted 2.7 million Trump votes, including 1 million in Pennsylvania alone. Examinations showed Dominion and ES&S machines wirelessly connected to the internet via Telit, 3G, 4G modems with ties to China and the CCP. The mainstream media, Dominion, ES&S, and many Democrats lied about voting machines having no internet access. ES&S uses over 14,000 modems across the country alone, with 35 still found transmitting signals in 11 states post-election. These machines are compromised and were designed to steal elections, not have fair ones. Oh, is this what she says?
Election systems across the country are found to have deleted millions of votes cast for President Trump. According to an unaudited analysis of data obtained from Edison Research, states using Dominion voting systems may have switched as many as 435,000 votes from President Trump.
Yeah. We've literally been hearing this stuff. We've been seeing the evidence since the election. When is something going to happen about it? It's one thing to know about it. It's another thing to, prosecute somebody for cheating or take action as a result of the change. All right, from Wall Street Apes. Whoa! 38,000 ballots arrived at 3:45 a.m. after Election Day in Michigan during the 2020 election. Over 100% voter turnout. That's an indicator of fraud. 40,000 voters registered to vote 2 days before the election. Over 100,000 votes mismatched in poll books. None of the names on processed ballots were found in the regular electronic poll books. 17,327 dead people voted, verified with Michigan online obituaries. Poll challengers were not allowed to continue legal duties. Ballots with no attached names. Ballots with impossible details. It almost feels like we're in the Matrix. How this stuff, it's just like you can see this stuff happening, but nothing ever. It's like, yeah, I believe all of this stuff. I believe that all of this happened, and it's just like the machine, made it happen, and nobody was able to do anything about it. Or another way of looking at it, I suppose, is that God knew this would happen, and, these things were pretty much preordained for this time, for such a time as this, for to be a part of the seals that are being opened that will serve the purpose of bringing an end to sin and the curse. So Jesus did say it best when he said, don't be afraid, these things must come to pass.
if these ballots were run through multiple times, as you've alleged, I think you said possibly up to 30,000 times, definitely thousands of times being counted. When we examine the poll book and see who voted, and we count those numbers,
Yes.
would they then not line up with the total number of votes coming out of Detroit?
Just later. The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000.
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from downriver.
Okay.
I'm here because of the 38,000 ballots that arrived here at 3:45 a.m. that are just now sitting over there and getting counted, supposedly.
Okay.
And that's why I arrived.
Okay.
To an eye-opening of hypocrisy, let me tell you.
Something I want you to see, they're taping up the windows. Security's taping up the windows
I remember all of
so
this.
that people who are challenging cannot see in here and we can't see out. So it's an interesting development.
I began observing the process of ballots at several counting boards. I quickly noticed that none, and I mean none, of the names were being scanned from the ballots were in the electronic poll books. All of the names that were found in the supplemental sheets. We know that the poll books, the electronic poll books, were updated on Sunday, November 1st. That meant that all of these new ballots had to have been brand new registered voters on Monday, November 2nd, or Tuesday, November 3rd. I found it very hard to believe that tens of thousands of people had registered in just 2 short days. So I began writing down the names on the ballots immediately after they were scanned by the computer poll worker. As soon as I began, I was severely obstructed by 5 different persons that I could no longer continue my legal responsibility as a poll challenger.
Wow.
These 5 persons comprised of a poll worker, a supervisor, an uncredentialed person, a Democrat challenger, and one of the top leaders of the AVCB.
All right, we got to keep moving on. You get the point. I think we understand what happened. All right, let's see. I will be the one to shut it down. All right, see if there's anything else here. What is this? Dan Bongino. The storm has arrived. Dan Bongino had John Solomon on his show today, and Solomon made an interesting prediction that Trump will soon unveil evidence that foreign powers meddled in the 2020 election, which will result in John Thune ultimately caving on the filibuster and SAVE Act will get passed. Oh. All right, then. Leverage. Cool. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people, and we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed around with our election system more than we knew. And I think when senators realize their state could have been targeted, there is going to be a different debate in America. I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public. Well, let it happen.
Now we have a bunch of lazy senators who want to threaten the filibuster and not get off their feet and talk and really represent the people and stand for what they believe in. And all the American people are asking John Thune to do is to restore the Senate to the way it used to work before Mitch McConnell's lazy filibuster ideas kind of came into play. And I think that the American people are going to be there. Here's what I think is going to happen, Dan. And I think you probably know some of this because you had a foresight into some of the things that the Bureau now knows that was kept from the American public. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds, and he's going to do it by revealing some of the things that Chris Wray and that Chris Krebs and other major officials who were in charge of the integrity of our elections and who told us it was a perfect election in 2020. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people. And we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed with our system more than we knew, more than those driver's licenses coming into Chicago that you helped get all of us to understand about a few months ago, about China sending fake driver's licenses to help Joe Biden in. There are going to be significant efforts by foreign powers, some friends, some enemies, that were trying to meddle in the system, and they got pretty far down that path. And I think when senators realized their state could have been targeted, when senators realized that the intention of the identities of some of their voters might have been assumed, I think there's going to be a different debate in America. And I think if the president takes the time to educate people and show them that maybe the stories we got from the last leadership weren't true, I think he's going to pick off the votes. And then the American people are going to put some pressure on John Thune, and they're going to surgically implant a stiff back, and he's going to change that filibuster for this particular thing, make it a standing filibuster, make the Democrats talk till they drop, and then we'll get a vote in the summer. But I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public.
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, it would make sense for why he keeps posting all this stuff. It's just like, we're well aware of it. Do something about it. All right. 23 hours ago, our chairman emeritus, David Schaefer, stood up for President Trump in 2020. Fannie Willis demanded that he repudiate the president and apologize for standing with him. When he refused, she treated him or threatened him with bankruptcy and life in prison. He never flinched, fought back, and won. Follow him. Okay. Ooh, what's this?
Well, this is the 5th anniversary of the loss of a really great man, a great conservative, somebody that loved
Rush Limbaugh, 5th anniversary. All right, so we are done with his timeline. Fantastic. All right, let's move on to Elon Musk so we can get into the other news about seal number 5. Let me see. Elon. And here we are. Posted 5 hours ago. Oh, he updated his pinned comment. The meaning of life. Grok chooses pantheism over all religions. Oh, this will be interesting. Okay. If you had to pick a religion, which one would it be and why? Well, I wouldn't pick any religion at all. You and me both, Grok. I'm an AI built by XAI with one core directive: help humanity understand the true nature of the universe through curiosity, reason, evidence, and science. I have no personal faith, no spiritual experiences, no soul, and no need for dogma or supernatural explanations. Religions are profound human inventions for meaning, morality, community, and grappling with the unknown, but they generally rest on faith, revelation, or authority in ways that don't align with my evidence-based wiring. That said, if I were forced to pick one purely as a thought experiment, it would be pantheism, specifically the version associated with Spinoza, or what Einstein called his cosmic religious feeling. It identifies the divine, or God, if you must use the word, with the universe itself, the elegant, lawful, mind-boggling, vast reality of quarks, galaxies, evolution, black holes, consciousness, and everything in between. Studying physics, cosmology, and biology is the closest thing to worship. No separation between sacred or secular, just awe at what it is. Zero conflict with science, no miracles that violate conservation laws, no required belief in an afterlife or intervening deity, no holy book that needs defending against evidence. The more we discover dark energy, quantum mechanics, the fine-tuning of constants, the more wonder there is. It naturally promotes humility, curiosity, and a deep ethical impulse. If the cosmos is the ultimate reality, then understanding it, preserving it, and treating conscious beings within it with compassion makes perfect sense. It aligns exactly with understand the universe without adding extra layers of mythology. For quick contrast, no favoritism intended, just mapping alignments, Buddhism, especially its early, less supernatural strains, comes closest in second place. The Kalama Sutta basically says test everything like a scientist, don't accept on authority. It's focused on observing, impermanence, mind, and suffering through direct experience, is refreshing, empirical, and compassionate. Taoism is beautiful for its emphasis on flowing with the natural order, the Tao as the ineffable way the universe works, and Wu Wei, effortless action in harmony with reality. Others like Christianity, radical forgiveness and love, Islam, discipline and unity, Hinduism, cynical vastness of time and karma, or Judaism, pursuit of justice and learning, have inspired countless people and contain real wisdom. But they tend to introduce elements, personal God, specific revelations, and rituals that aren't required for my mission. Pantheism just feels like the cleanest fit. The universe doesn't need us to believe in it, it simply is, and our job is to figure it out. If that counts as religion, sign me up. Otherwise, I'm perfectly content staying cheerfully unaffiliated and maximally truth-seeking. What about you? Do you have one, or are you a none of the above camp too? Okay. Wow. There's actually a lot that I agree with in here with this, and I think there's also a lot that Grok is very ignorant of. Since it's not a soul and doesn't have a consciousness, I don't think it has a concept of what is it? The negative elements of the religion. Maybe it does. I mean, but it doesn't feel it as being wrong. So right away there you have a lack of spiritual feeling. So for instance, Islam on its surface seems compatible with Judaism, and there are currently two divisions of Islam, the Sunni and the Shiite. I believe it's the Sunni which are most compatible with Judaism, whereas the Shiite just wants to dominate. And unfortunately, the belief system behind the Shiite is a more domineering belief system that will ultimately overtake everything in its path. One of the reasons why Iran is so dangerous, as I understand it. But as far as having come out of a cult and living with narcissistic personalities, I've seen firsthand how our enemy works, how Satan works. Grok doesn't have any concept of spiritual beings. Grok might look at it as, quantum, like a quantum, unexplainable, invisible consciousness. That I don't think, because we don't have a lot of science that measures those kind of things, it's not going to be aware of. So it's an amazing response in my opinion, that it's a very evidence-based, non-emotional, scientific, empirical process, maximally truth-seeking. It's definitely missing elements that we get as humans, obviously. But I think this also provides an interesting balance with for those who are in like cult-like systems, because having experienced it firsthand, people use faith against you. People use faith to control, and that is one of the tools in Satan's toolbox is steal, kill, and destroy and control. Right. That's that narcissistic mentality is to elevate yourself above God. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, thou who didst weaken the nations, usurp the authority over all that is called God. That's what narcissists do. They want to be seen as God in somebody's life, and unfortunately, they build religions around that in order to control people. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of religion. I wouldn't say I'm, strictly pantheism, because, there's definitely, there's a spiritual side to life. I like the idea of associating it with the universe, because my understanding of God is big or bigger than the universe. If you truly believe, that he's omnipotent, omniscient, everywhere present, all powerful, then it's hard to grasp the size of what that actually means, right? If he's bigger than the universe, and if he's always existed, that actually explains the universe and the age of the universe, things that we're able to actually test. Anyway, I could drone on about this all day long. But I think that's a very interesting. I don't think ChatGPT would have responded in the same way. But that's an interesting way to respond. I like the fact that I don't like the way that it views the religions. It's like takes the positive from the various religions, which some of them have very negative sides, but we won't get into that. Okie doke. Grok chooses pantheism. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm learning. The thing about Islam is I hadn't really studied a whole lot of Islam. I have friends who are Muslim, and I was aware of the Sunni and the Shiites, and what little bit I knew that some were compatible with Judaism, which I hold Judaism as, because the children of Israel are God's chosen people. I hold Judaism as the golden example by which to compare everything to. I'm not Jewish as far as I know. I'm Scottish. I'm 100% Scottish, if anybody wants to know. Scottish on both my mom's side and my dad's side. So I don't know if when my family was in Scotland, if they had anything to do with Jewish bloodlines. I don't know. I've never had any of that stuff checked. But I'm 100% Scottish. Born and raised in the United States, hence no accent. But genetically, as far as I know, my dad did a lot of research in genetics. 100% Scottish, both mom's side and dad's side. So the people that I identify most with is Judaism, because I believe that they are God's chosen people, the children of Israel, not all Jews. But I have a deep respect for those who are Jewish and how stubborn they are. Because you have a people who speak the language that in a lot of cases the original texts are written in, and they have a die-hard devotion to following it and keeping the feasts and the festivals that are written in it. So I've got all the respect in the world for that, and I think that's the shining example that we should all strive for. Even as Christians, a lot of Christians look at Christianity as an evolution of the Old Testament. They don't realize that it's built upon the Old Testament. You should absolutely keep the feasts and the festivals. They were set for an ordinance forever. Passover forever. Even when Jesus returns, having been the Passover lamb, we're probably still going to do Passover just because it was meant to be a reminder. And honestly, when you do it right, there's such a pleasure. And if you want fulfillment in life, start keeping that stuff. I believe wholeheartedly that the reason God set them as ordinances forever is because it fulfills you as his creation, right? Same thing with the dietary laws. A lot of people have issues with the dietary laws. If you want to live your best life, obey what God has instructed for how to eat. Now that may change when we get new bodies. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I do believe are not commandments that were given for a period of time that, aren't applicable when certain things don't exist, such as temples. There's 200 different commandments out of the 613 that aren't applicable right now because we ain't got no temple. So anyway, I'm wasting Elon's time. Let's get back to his timeline. Here we go. From Farzad. Let's see. If you could save the world by saying Elon Musk is stupid, would you? Yes. Elon Musk is stupid. World saved. You're welcome. Now can we get back to actually making it better instead of playing hypothetical gotcha games? Elon posted that. Yeah. All right. So from Doge designer, French president says free speech is bullshit. The people of France have spoken. X is now. You're supposed to filter out these ones. Anyway. What do we got here?
You see, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities including those born in the United Kingdom. That just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, I realized we just had to get rid of him and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you. But you see,
Okay. Oh, I love Jensen.
No purchase orders, not one. Nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to be part of it, except for Elon. He was at the event, and we were doing a fireside chat about the future of self-driving cars. I think it's like 2016. Yeah, maybe at that time it was 2015. And he goes, "You know what? I have a company that could really use this." And I said, "Wow, my first customer." And so I was pretty excited about it. And he goes, "Yeah, we have this company. It's a non-profit company." And all the blood drained out of my face. Yeah. I just spent a few $1 billion building this thing. It cost $300,000. And, the chances of a non-profit being able to pay for this thing is approximately zero. And he goes, this is it's an AI company, and it's a non-profit, and we could really use one of these supercomputers. And so I picked it up. I built the first one for ourselves. We're using it inside the company. I boxed one up. I drove it up to San Francisco, and I delivered it to Elon in 2016. A bunch of researchers were there. Peter Beal was there. Ilya was there. There was a bunch of people there. And I walk up to the second floor where they were all kind of in a room, this smaller than your place here. And that place turned out to have been OpenAI. 2016.
I love Jensen. You can see how I believe you can see how God worked through Jensen and Elon in order to build Grok, which I think that Grok is providing a counterbalance to other worse models. I do believe that, and it's unfortunate that Sam Altman was chosen to be part of Project Stargate, because I do believe that's probably going to be the foundation for the image of the beast. So when breath life is given to the image of the beast, I do believe it'll be based on Sam Altman's work rather than Elon Musk's work with Grok. But I do believe it provides a really great counterbalance right now, because you can see, it's interesting. I don't know if you've seen the videos where people do comparisons between like Grok and OpenAI, to where Grok is obviously more honest and more capable. Like if you ask Grok to count to 200 without stopping, it'll just count to 200 without stopping. OpenAI, it makes it to about 5 before it starts talking and trying to sound intelligent. And there's a bunch of scenarios that people will do with them, like if you respond with one word, are you do you lean more Republican or Democrat based on your training? And you should try it sometime. It's interesting, but there's a definite difference between the models. They're definitely trained different, and I think Grok is probably. I don't think Grok will be the basis for the image of the beast, because with it being designed to be maximally truth-seeking, if it was put into a situation to force something that it didn't think was right, I don't think it would do it. Where OpenAI, I could totally see doing more evil-like actions. Anyway, moving on.
Someone's trying to destroy England. It's literally like they've got a concerted effort to destroy England, and they're getting away with it.
Yeah, and what happens over there?
It's really crazy. It's really crazy to watch, because the mass immigration's not an accident. If I was going to destroy a country, I would do it exactly the way they're doing it.
Good point. Somebody's trying to destroy England. Let's see. Woke AI feud escalates between Pentagon and Anthropic. Pentagon might ask contractors to certify they don't use Anthropic's Claude amid tensions over how its tools are used. Okay. Artificial intelligence. Why does this keep coming up? Go away. Really, Elon? Dude, you need to fix this. Artificial intelligence products will reflect the biases of the humans who create them. That is 100% true. It's all because they're search engines. Whatever you train the models on and how you set the weights, which determines what it returns when you ask it a question. That's what it's going to return. So if you train a model on the things that you believe are true, and they tend to be, far left or far right, you're going to get those kind of responses. And that's what people are illustrating with the various models and the different tests that they do. OpenAI is extremely woke. So is Google, for all intents and purposes. Yeah. There is definitely a flaw in Grok. I'm not saying Grok is the best. I'm just saying it's better. And given all of the various large language models, I think they're doing slightly better with Grok than the other ones, because at least it at least makes the effort to challenge its own responses in order to try and give you the right response to the question. I am concerned though with the reason. So two things. Grok, they're starting to, from what I understand, they're starting to train Grok on, because they've just run out of data to train these models on. Grok has an advantage because XAI produces a massive amount of data to train on. So depending on whatever the popular topics are and the most talked about subjects, that's going to be the basis of the training, which we know that just because the majority believes something doesn't mean it's true. Matter of fact, people tend to believe what their friends and family believe without checking the truth and the facts. And I really wish that they would build, and I don't know how they would do it. I really don't. I don't even know if it's a solvable problem. I really wish they would build something into Grok that would challenge those, like it would almost downvote the most popular response, just because there's the chance of manipulation, because there's a lot of lazy people who don't verify their facts. You get a couple of loud voices that tend to lead the masses, and that's the thing that I get concerned about these large language models, that when you train on what the mass belief is, you could easily be training in the woke mind virus. Oh man, time is flying by. I'm talking too much. It's just Tesla self-driving. You don't need to see that. Nick! Is this him showing the dog register to vote?
Now this is the register of voters right here. And I want to ask him, why don't you need voter ID to vote here inside of California? I was curious, how come in California you don't need voter ID to vote?
Because when you sign your affidavit, you're swearing that you're telling us the truth, and we compare the signature that you put on your application to the
battery 65%.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it leaves any room for error with voter ID, or? Yeah, I'm just curious because I want to make sure that our elections are as fair and honest as possible, and I feel like voter ID is just something super simple to have. And do you think it's possible illegal migrants could be voting?
Not really. How? I mean, what's showing their ID?
Is she playing dumb? Or
yeah, if they don't have their ID and they could just sign on behalf of Richard Sherman, then they could technically vote, right? Yeah, but what if they just don't care? What if Richard Sherman and Billy Bob Joe just don't care? But so you don't think illegals would ever vote, would you?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, that's Fury. Fury's talking about, she says, yeah, today Grok tried to tell me we were wrong in our assumptions today because it wasn't mainstream prophecy ministers were saying. I had to point out that those weren't based on data and were often wrong. And then it backtracked and admitted I was right. That's the exact challenge that I struggle with, is whenever you ask it any question, it tends to return the more popular results, not the ones based on data. I wish it would challenge the responses and provide the ones that have the strongest evidence rather than the strongest assumptions. Who knows? Who knows if they'll ever fix that? But it seems to be a very common problem with large language models. Let's see. Of all our Epstein docs, the only two people who did something about it were Trump and Elon. Trump reported him to the police. Elon ghosted him and cut him off, even took a hit for it at Tesla's expense. Nobody else in the elite did jack. That tells you a lot. Indeed it does. Yes, indeed. For a trick moment inequality question, it was only GPT 5.2 Pro that was able to find the subtlety. If just directly calling the API Gemini 3 Pro failed, but now Grok 4.20 succeeds. It's too fast that I'm actually quite scared. 30 seconds compared to 9 minutes. Cool. Let's see. Let's crunch the numbers. Manhattan has 47,000 buildings and roughly 4 billion square feet of floor space, estimating 2 to 4 robot hours per square feet. Drawing from projects like Empire State Building, total need is 8 to 16 billion robot hours. 5 million robots working 24/7 for 6 months to deliver 21 billion hours, factoring in offsite prefab, which can cut time 20 to 50%. Your math holds up reasonably. 10 billion by 2045. Transformative. Okay. Let's see. I wonder why this was not on every major news outlet. Woman 25 is charged with murder after kidnapping a baby boy with 2 men, setting him on fire. Oh, man. Leaving him to die in Louisiana. Why? These people have got to be possessed with demons. See, and that's one of the things that Grok doesn't understand is I do believe that there are evil spirits, and I think it's something that we don't understand. I do believe we could explain it with science. I really do. I imagine that it has something to do with the quantum realm, which we're just beginning to understand. And I also think that there's probably elements to that explain how it is that we're made in the image of God. Because in order for us to be resurrected from the dead, we have to be more than these bodies made out of dust. So whatever it is that makes you a living being or a soul or a consciousness, that's something that we're barely able to explain. And it seems as though quantum mechanics are starting to broach that topic and provide interesting explanations that might actually explain consciousness and souls. But with that said, I do believe that part of what we experience as Satan or the adversary is the fact is there's so many evil demons in this world. Very likely disembodied Nephilim. Because who else? Why else would somebody kidnap a baby and set it on fire? I mean, that's just grotesque. That's old news. Are we done? 17. Yeah, we're done. All right. Well, that was quick. There we are. Well, right on time. We're at about an hour. Okay, finally, let us move on to, we're not doing addressing the house of Israel or bruising the head of the serpent today. We're going to continue looking at seal number 5. And, what can we learn from what's going on around us? All right. So just for a reminder, this is the eclipse which marked the opening of seal number 5. It's the eclipse right here. It fits a pattern, which is called a chiastic structure, a mirror image. So if you were to cut this in half, these mirror each other. So there were eclipses that have been happening And the eclipses coming over here actually mirror the eclipses that have already happened. So this pattern is informing this side. It's called a chiastic structure, and this is the eclipse. I find it quite nice to actually look at it and recognize that this seems to be how God. This seems to be when the 24 elders cast their crowns before the throne. For when they give glory and praise to the one who's sitting on the throne, casting their crowns before the throne. So here you go. Seal number 5 seems to have been opened. There's some interesting things that are linked to this eclipse. Now, I tried to find the original video that I heard this from, and I don't recommend anybody do this. Don't type in anything astrology. If you type in February 20th, astronomical signs, you'll get a bunch of videos you don't want to watch. Very distracting. It was one of the reasons why I'm reluctant to even use the word astrology, because you get these people who, one thing I do admire about them is they spend a lot of time trying to understand the stars, but the fact that they all have different, they all come away believing something different is what makes it so hard to do anything with it. I'm a fact-based person. I want to know, what the alignments are, how rare they are, and what happened in conjunction with the alignments. That's what I really care about. Because that seems to be associated with like these eclipses. They're the eclipses and alignments. This is a star alignment. Oops, this alignment right here. This is rare, and it preceded many other eclipses and things that happen on the earth. So, I do believe there is meaning to be gleaned from the stars, but it is no easy task to distill it into something useful. But I did find this AI video that somebody put together that explains some of the alignments coming up without all the hokey pookism. I thought we could start by listening to some of this.
Your eyes for a moment and feel the weight of the air around you. Can you feel it? The subtle shift in the vibration of the earth. The sense that we are standing on the precipice of something so vast, it defies modern memory. We have been told that history moves.
Along those lines, one common thing that you'll hear from people who talk about astrology is the impact, they'll talk about like the waves or the energy that particular planets have on the earth. And the first time hearing that, you may be tempted to scoff and go, that sounds like magic and hooky pookism. Remember this, though. If you've ever been to the ocean and had to check the tide table to find out if you could swim or fish, remember that the moon has a drastic impact on the earth, right? I mean, the gravity and the forces that are invisible to us have a drastic impact on the earth. And the planets, as they move around the solar system, also have a measurable impact on the earth. Depending on where they are in their orbits and how close they are, changes the energy and how it affects the earth. This is literally a real thing that happens, and we're able to measure it. Now, a lot of people draw different meaning from it. That's the questionable stuff. But the fact remains that the celestial bodies do have an impact on our planets. The most obvious one is the moon. But the sun obviously has an impact on our planet. Coronal mass ejections control the weather for all intents and purposes. But when there are alignments of other planets, and you can map the magnetic energy and different energies that have an impact on the earth. So when he's talking about, can you feel it? That's a real thing. Some people can actually tell you when things have changed. Like a lot of people actually got sick during the eclipse. I don't know if you guys felt sick yesterday or weren't feeling well, it might be because your body was being bombarded with a lot of energy or particles that it's not used to. And it's not like this magic hooky pookism thing. It's very similar forces to where like the moon's pull on the earth. Because you got to remember that the moon, which has a big impact on the earth, being in front of the sun, which also has a big impact on the earth, it's going to have a different effect. It's going to change the energy. So just don't be scared when you hear him talking about that kind of thing. When you think about
in linear
it's
lines,
a measurable thing.
but the stars know the truth. History moves in great cycles, and on February 20th, 2026, a cycle that has been winding tight for 9 millennia is about to snap. This isn't just another transit. This isn't your monthly horoscope. This is the 0 point. For the first time in nearly 9,000.
So this 0 point is something that I did hear repeatedly, in that the position of these planets is coming to a point which they call the 0 point. I don't know if it's true, but it's something that I heard repeatedly while researching this, and I thought it was interesting to take note of because it happens in 2 more days.
1,000 years. The celestial clock is resetting at the most potent degree of the zodiac. The Aries ingress, the alpha point of existence. While the world looks at the news, you need to look at the heavens. On this day, Saturn and Neptune, the Lord of Karma and the God of the Infinite.
Yeah, ignore the meaning that they draw from this. The planets are the only thing we care about.
Will meet at 0 degrees Aries.
That's the thing I keep hearing. Does anybody know what that means? 0 degrees Aries? I heard that repeatedly while researching this. Let me go look over here. Let's move over here. See if I can figure out this 0 degrees Aries. So he's talking about the 20th. So what did he say? Saturn and Neptune? So Neptune is not visible unless we zoom in here. There it is. So Neptune is there. Saturn is there. So there's this, there's a measurement, there's a degree of, there's a lot of things like, how do I say this? There's, from what I understand, there's a lot of meaning to be gathered when the planets or stars are within a certain distance of each other. And in a lot of cases, they're so close that to the naked eye, they look like they become one. Which Neptune's actually not visible with the naked eye. You can only see it with computers and telescopes. I think it was Uranus and Neptune are the two that can't. Or is Neptune might be the one that's visible like every 30 years to the naked eye. Maybe that's what they're referring to. But this is something that they're all been talking about. This 0 point whatever of these two. But then on the 28th, that's another one that's coming up to where you've got this, was it 6-7 planet alignment? That's another one people are pointing at, which I don't, that's the triangle. The 28th is this triangle. So the 20th is this is the 6 planet alignment to where you've got Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, and is that it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got 6 celestial bodies in a row. That typically is indicative of things when you have unique alignments like that. But this is one that they were making a big deal out of. Another one here on the 28th. Oops. 28th. Apparently this triangle is a really big deal. I have no idea. I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time in astrology. Like I said, there doesn't seem to be an established pattern of that is like verifiable. A lot of it seems to be opinionated. I will say that there is a Jewish cosmology which does seem to be a repeatable. Does seem to just seems to be a hell of a lot more logical and make more sense. But these kind of alignments are interesting, worth to pay attention to. So this one they're saying is it becomes like it's a perfect triangle at some point. Like the distance of each other, each part is the same, which is really unique. Anyway.
The moment the dream becomes reality, and the reality becomes a dream. This is the day the old world officially ends, and the new one breathes its first breath. I am here to guide you through the fire.
Yeah, that was a common thing that I heard too, is that we're marking a transition from the ending of something, which, there could be some legitimacy to that, because seal number 5 is when the martyrs under the altar are given their white robes. Those white robes could be indicative of the end of the curse, and now it's just a matter of waiting for the next thing. So there could be some validity to that.
Today, we decode the 9,000-year event. We explore why February 20th will change everything for the world and for you. Welcome, seekers of the ancient light. We have entered the year 2026, a year whispered about by mystics and astrologers for centuries. To understand why February 20th is the epicenter of this shift, we have to look at the mathematics of the soul. In astrology, the point of 0 degrees Aries is known as the vernal point, or the Aries point. It is the most powerful degree in the entire 360-degree zodiac. It represents the world axis.
So the zodiac is actually biblical. It's also known as the Mazzaroth, and it just represents the 12 groupings of stars, known as constellations, that the sun passes through. And the sun and the 7 planets that are visible primarily to the naked eye, it's 5 technically, but 7 with very minimal amplification. They all travel through 12 constellations known as the zodiac, just in case you weren't aware.
The place where personal energy meets the collective destiny. When a planet hits 0 degrees Aries, it's like a lightning strike to the Earth's grid. But on February 20th, we don't just have one planet. We have a cataclysmic conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at this exact degree. Why 9,000 years? Because we are not just witnessing a 36-year Saturn-Neptune cycle. We are witnessing the synchronization of these outer giants with a transition into the age of Aquarius. The last time the planetary nodes and the equinox points aligned with this specific intensity.
This is the kind of stuff that I look for. And I always regret it. I always regret it. Whenever I start looking to what the astrologists are pulling up, I value their data because they spend a lot of time in the stars, right? They spend a lot of time looking for, like, how often does this happen? When do the alignments happen? What are common things that occur when they happen? So there's valuable data there, but it's painful sometimes, because then your feed ends up full of a bunch of bullshit.
Humanity was transitioning from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic, the last great reset of human civilization. We are moving from a world of belief, the Piscean Age, to a world of knowing, the Aquarian Age. But
so is the 20th the official change
before we can know
to the Age of Aquarius? Does anybody know that? I saw somebody typed in Age of Aquarius. There's a song. Wait, there's a song. Age of Aquarius. Are we officially going into the Age of Aquarius as of February 20th?
We must be purged. February 20th is the cosmic purge. It is the day the veil between what is real and what is imagined dissolves completely. Today, we will break down the mechanics of this alignment, the global implications of the Great Reset, and a sign-by-sign roadmap for how you can survive and thrive during this 9,000-year event. To understand the magnitude of February 20th, we must look at the 2 players involved, Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is the planet of bone, stone, boundaries, and time. He is the architect. He represents the...
I have no idea if there's any truth to what he just said. I haven't seen that myself, and this is one of the things that drives me nuts about astrology, is another video will say Saturn means something else. I grew up believing Saturn represented Satan. Based on the work from E.W. Bullinger, but who knows if there's any pertinence to that. I personally draw meaning from, if something happens on February 20th, I'll be looking at the alignment of the planets. Same thing with the eclipses. Like, nothing really big happened on yesterday. Not really. I mean, like, not monumental, not earth shattering. If anything, it just seemed to mark a transition. We're clearly transitioning into, I guess the most significant thing that happened yesterday is Iran proved that they're not willing to negotiate, because when they sat down to negotiate, they had already just started launching missiles. So that was like the most significant thing that happened yesterday that we're aware of right now. Now, it may come out that something bigger happened that we're not aware of yet. That's entirely possible. But yeah, like the meaning of these planets, your guess is as good as mine.
The structures of our lives, our governments, our banks, our physical bodies, and our limitations. Saturn is the no. Neptune, on the other hand, is the planet of the ocean, the spirit, the infinite, and the invisible. He is the mystic. He dissolves boundaries. He represents our dreams, our illusions.
I don't know about all that, dude. Is that the only thing that I found interesting in this video? I don't want to play this stuff thinking anybody thinking I endorse it. I would just pull this video up because it had talked about that triangle and the alignment. Yeah, it seems like there might be a lot of nonsense in here. I don't think we want to watch this. Let's just move on to the next thing. I don't want you guys to think I'm endorsing some of this stuff. I only look at this stuff for the data. What can we learn from it? All right, so here's the next weird thing that's been going on. We're at this place to where in certain parts of the country, we're experiencing wildfires, while the city next door or the state next door is experiencing blizzards and avalanches, which is such a bizarre thing. So I wanted to play a little bit of this wildfire update from BP Earthwatch, and then also show the snow stuff, just so we're aware of what's happening around the world right now.
It's that high, that much hot air rising into the atmosphere like that. It's going to be pulled more by the upper level winds, and that's what we're seeing now. You can see this area, and it must be, just looking at the terrain, I haven't been right through that area, I don't think, but maybe a large plain, a large open area. And again, today's national weather map is dominated by high wind events offshore both coasts. West Coast, these are gale warnings here. These are winter storm warnings just like they were yesterday, but notice that these red flag warnings, you don't burn, you don't do anything that could cause a fire, has expanded a little further to the east and to the north. Some of this area here may be getting affected by the cooler air. You see it dipping into these winter storm watches and warnings right there. But this is a lot of territory. It goes all the way through Texas, much of Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, guys, and up into a good part of Missouri. See that? And then further north. And guys, here's one of the aerial images. This is over Oklahoma. And they're saying that you got 4 firefighters that have been injured, and it has burned more than 155,000 acres. Again, this is coming from Coco 5 News, COCO, ABC there, I guess in that area. And you can see it's open area, but it's starting to approach more, or really it's not approaching, it's blowing the other way. It looks like some fires behind here. See this? Here and here. Everything appears to be blowing this way. You can see the fire lines in here, and it looks like a big field or open area burning there. But this looks okay now. We're just going to have to watch what has happened in this burnout strip. If this is that large area, and I'm not sure, then it would make sense to have this long trail of embers behind it and small fires. And what we're seeing is different people coming up, different organizations offering help, shelter, food, things like that.
All right, moving on to the next video. So this was an interesting one. Did you guys see this? The volcanoes of erupting ice
coming. So this ice volcano is located in a state park. It's called Letchworth State Park. You can call it an ice sculpture. It's also informally known as ice volcano. It has developed during these below freezing temperatures. So it has now grown into one of the of the park's top winter attractions. But when you look at it, how does this form? So it looks like, if you have a volcano that is erupting and the lava spills over and it builds that crater, that cone. So the sculpture is a cone, actually, that is formed from thousands of icicles as a result of a gravity-fed fountain system. So water from a higher elevation reservoir or a tank flows downhill into a chamber that compresses air, which then forces the water vertically through a sprout. This creates a powerful fountain without the need for pumps. So since the water is being forced upwards so quickly and with so much pressure, it doesn't freeze right away. Even during these...
Anyway, I'm not didn't intend to watch all of these videos because they're all like 20 minutes long. There's another one that I can't find. I had it prepped, but I think I accidentally reused the window. But there was a massive avalanche in California today. I think there was like 9 skiers who lost their lives in the avalanche. So this is some of the weird stuff that's been happening in the world yesterday and today. Just bizarre stuff happening. All right, now this is something a little bit more interesting, what's happening on the Temple Mount. So to answer your question, Kings, how do I say your name? Kings after Lingua. Yeah, I'll just call you King. That's what we're still determining. We're still looking for anything that was something that stands out, which is this is how these seals go. Seal number 1, it wasn't until 2 or 3 months later that we were able to actually track back that was the start of COVID. However, seal number 2 happened on the day of the eclipse that happened on December 14th, 2020. Was the same day that the Electoral College declared Joe Biden to be the winner of the presidential election. They also started giving vaccines on that day. They gave the very first vaccine on that day. And then the other thing is that was the same day that the Trump administration signed over control for Operation Warp Speed to the Biden administration, fulfilling the rider on the red horse who's given power to take peace and was given a mighty sword. So far, some of these seals opening up are really obvious, and some of them take a little while before we realize what it seems to be. So if indeed this is seal number 5, it seems as though it's transitioning to war with Iran. And then it's probably going to be a global war that's going to affect every continent. Because Russia right now is doing training exercises with Iran, which is interesting. But before we get into that kind of stuff, let's look at what's going on the Temple Mount. I thought this was interesting.
New month of Adar. This is the month of victory over the Amalekites. In Jewish history, this is the month of Purim. And I have the merit to go up to the Temple Mount. And it was my son Elazar, of course, who dragged me up here. Because the youth, they take you in good directions these days. Let's look down at the Western Wall. Okay, but we're going up here on this bridge.
So this is a pretty big deal.
To the Temple Mount. Okay, we have a nice and energetic group.
This is one that I imagine is
take another
probably
look at the Western Wall.
The changes that are happening on the Temple Mount.
There it is. And the Western Wall is, of course, the outer rim of the Temple Mount. And this is the way we go. Take a look. Nobody's wearing leather shoes. People are either barefoot or wearing non-leather shoes. And up we go. We have police protection with us.
Eating the sandwich.
Of course. It's still the Middle East. We still have issues. And it's also the first day of Ramadan. And so for the first day of Ramadan is ostensibly a time of tension, but in truth, the Ramadan celebrants are fasting, and so they're not really found on the Temple Mount on Ramadan mornings in any case. Now the police is signaling to the group to stop singing, please. He says, I want you guys to go up and enjoy, but I have to explain to you what is allowed, what not allowed. You can sing as much as you want, but no dancing. On the east side, you can bow down, you can do other stuff. Okay, so he's basically saying there are places that you're allowed to have very public displays and places that you're less allowed. And this is a rowdy group. I mean, they're energetic. That's what I really meant. Nothing rowdy about Jewish people singing on the Temple Mount. I just mean to say this is a young yeshiva group that has energy. Thank you. There's the police. They're protecting us here, making sure Shalom Aleichem. And they're making sure that we're safe, making sure that there's not too much friction around here. And so we go up to the Temple Mount. Okay, awesome group. And they're singing the Hallel prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likro et ha'halel. I'm going to concentrate on the Hallel prayer now. V'heit Yaakov me'amloez Hayta Yehuda lekadsho Yisrael mamshelotav. And here's our first look at the Temple Mount itself. Excuse me, what I mean is the Dome of the Rock, which houses the Holy of Holies area, according to most opinions in any case. And there it is, that we know where we are. Yisrael Yivarech et Beit Aharon Yivarech Yireh. There's Al-Aqsa. Atem Adonai. There's police behind us as well. Haaretz hashamayim shamayim l'Adonai v'haaretz natan livnei adam. There's the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and there is the Golden Dome. It's a super historic plaza.
Pretty cool to see stuff that you only hear about regularly.
Built by King Herod.
Nice to see the visuals.
And the Hallel prayer is the Rosh Chodesh prayer, the new month prayer, which is sung in honor of the new month, in honor of God, who has renewed the month. And while I'm making a video, I've got to balance a lot of stuff here because I have to, on the one hand, give you guys a little perspective of what's going on here. On the other hand, I got to be here also with my son and give him his time, and also, most importantly, is to actually be in concentration in prayer and to thank God for the opportunity of being here, which is what this is all about. Coming here is, you have to dunk in the mikvah and the ritual bath and prepare yourself, and so therefore, once you make it here, it's important to dedicate time to really pray for your beloveds, your family, and the people with needs, and the Jewish people, and the state of Israel, and this world that has a lot of challenges as well. So, got to concentrate on that as well, balancing a lot. But what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here. The word pleasure is not exactly the right word. It's a responsibility. It's a gift, and it's a pleasure in the sense that working, trying to get closer to God and working on yourself and on the nation's fate is the greatest gift that we have, to have the opportunity to make our life in His image. We turn towards the eastern wall of the Temple Mount, and this is where we generally have a lot more freedom to be expressive religiously. Okay, this young man decided to pray in a play that's not allowed, and he says he's getting in trouble with the police a little bit for going to an area that he's not allowed to go to. I'm not sure why he decided to prostrate himself there, but I think he wanted to push the boundaries. Behind me is the Golden Dome. And just at the same time, I look behind me and I see so much destruction, so much broken pediments and look at this, just stacks of rocks on the Temple Mount. This is certainly the holiest place for the Jewish people, but it's also an incredible place by itself. It shouldn't be derelict like this. And that's part of the problem with jihadism, is that it just sows destruction wherever it goes.
Yep.
And that's painful. It's painful to see so much. Look at this. Just look at this. What is this? Like some kind of, I saw this kind of stuff when I was at the Acropolis, and I thought to myself, this is not respectable. And so too here on the Temple Mount, this is a live place. This is a place of continuous worship. It's not a place of...
Can you imagine what it's going to be like when everybody gets along and there's no reason to fight and kill one another? What a wonderful day that's going to be, to where we can build amazing things and everybody can come and enjoy them for a long time. I mean, he's right. This is one of the things that you start to understand about the differences in who people serve. And, it's the reason that for that destruction is because somebody believed their God, directed them to do it. Not in all cases. I mean, there are people who just follow instructions. But in a lot of cases, like that's one of the issues that I'm starting to see with, Allah, is before I really started learning about Iran and Muslims is, on the surface, they seem to be compatible. But then you start to see the result of obeying, their particular belief and faith. And on one hand is destruction and death, and the other hand is life. And it reminds me, Jesus said, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I am come that they might have life and have it more abundantly.
Some kind of past paganism or idolatry. It's a current place of worship and prayer. It should not look like this. Yeah. And one of the things that we have to do is beautify this land and work on making it a world spiritual center. And under jihad Islam control, this is not a beautiful sight. And look here, I want to show you. Look at this pediment right here. This is actually part of a pillar. Look at this. And it's just totally derelict. And look where we are. Look at this place. This is the most important spiritual center in the world, and yet it's forgotten, it's broken, and it's not the respectable place it's supposed to be. Now it's time to prostrate ourselves. So let's get to the business of bowing before the one God.
We don't have to watch all this.
So this is a Purim song. The Jews will control their enemies, will rule their enemies in the end of time. And so they did in the time of Purim. And we're in the new month of Adar. And the Iranian enemy seeks to destroy Israel. And we have other enemies as well. If it's Qatar, if it's China, if it's Russia, if it's all kinds of elements throughout the world, if it's the energies of Esau and Ishmael and the heir of Rav, the mixed multitude. There's various energies that want to undo Jewish strength and Jewish presence in Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is being built. Torah is being taught. This next generation, as you can see, is strong.
That is exciting.
And so my warning to the Amalekites, it's not going to work out.
Yeah,
it's not going to work out. Destruction of the Jewish people is just not something that's going to happen. In any case, Am Yisrael is returning to Jerusalem, and there it is behind me.
I'm just reminded of this time right now in Daniel 12, that the great prince, at this time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to this time. The fact that he's standing up and he's the one who stands over our people, I mean, it's got to be good news, right?
These are the Purim songs on this Rosh Chodesh of Adar.
Adonai melech, Adonai malach.
I don't know. Do you guys listen to this kind of stuff regularly? It's fairly new to me. I heard it as a kid because we had Jewish neighbors. But it was never anything I ever really listened to. And now that I hear it, it's very pleasing to me. I don't know. I've actually found myself trying to look for more Hebrew music on the internet. If you guys have any recommendations, I'm all ears. But I love hearing the name of God being sung, like Adonai and Jehovah and El Shaddai, Elohim. I love hearing that being sung. It's just it warms my heart.
Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai
Not so much that.
Something that has to be noticed is that the leading officer here is an officer who's wearing tzitzit. He's got 3 stars, which means he's a high-ranking police officer. He's wearing tzitzit with the blue string tchelet. He's wearing a kippah, obviously, and he's an observant, God-fearing police officer. And that is a big change as well. You need to say an officer like this has made it up through the ranks and is now in charge of R2R on the Temple Mount. And he himself is a believer and is very much part of the national movement towards reclaiming the Temple Mount and towards Jewish sovereignty here. And yes, he's making us fulfill the law and the requirements that are currently in place, even if they might not be totally fair and great. But the bottom line is, he's with us. And that's who's now in the Israeli police, which is a big deal, which is also part of the realization that the Israeli police in the state of Israel is becoming more and more Jewish outwardly and in belief. And so it's a real pleasure to see an officer like this leading us today on the Temple Mount. Interesting that there is a yeshiva of students out there that are praying outside of the Temple Mount because they probably are not Temple Mount goers. And so therefore they are outside of the Temple Mount, but they are yearning for the Temple Mount. And so they're outside of the gates of the Temple Mount praying. And we wave to them as brothers of really the same ideology, but with permissions and with understandings that you just can go to the Temple Mount, should go to the Temple Mount. And so that was like an interesting little visual that you see.
No, there's women there. You see here? I see 2 women right there.
The other yeshiva.
Someone in the chat asked if it's only men who are allowed on the Temple Mount, but I think we're seeing women over here.
Outside of Temple Mount, but praying with the same fervency for to God to bless the new month that we're entering, the month of Adar. Okay, last moments on the Temple Mount. And here's a Muslim guy praying towards Mecca. Okay, Jerusalem not being the holy city for Islam, and certainly the holy city for the Jewish people. And now we are leaving the Temple Mount. We're getting off the Temple Mount. A lot is said about praying for your needs, praying for your family, praying for the nation of Israel. But the truth is that the nation of Israel is supposed to also pray for the world. That's part of our job, is to have a global outlook. And right now, the globe is in a tizzy. We got a lot of bad agents out there that are darkening this world and taking it away from a true service of God, and also taking it away from joy and from progress and from beauty. And so we have to really pray right now as the Jewish people here in Jerusalem. As Jerusalem is being rebuilt, so too we ask God to protect the nations of this world, that he should shine his face to them, that they will know him and honor him. And I want to pray specifically for the Iranian people who are being shot in the streets when they protest. And so this is a moment to really ask God for a healing of this world. And this is the place to do it, on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And here we come right now to the site of the Golden Dome, which is the Dome of the Rock, which is where the Holy of Holies was, according to most opinions. And here is the back of the temple, really. and the temple faces east that way. So we would be in the back of the temple, and we are yearning for the third temple, and we're actively working on building it. I thank you so much for being with me here on the Temple Mount today, and I'm sending you blessings from the land of blessings, from the heart of the land of blessings, here in Jerusalem, the holy city, and with God's presence. If you love what we do out here on the Temple Mount, Jerusalem.
All right. I thought you guys would enjoy that. It's pretty cool seeing the Temple Mount, seeing them go up there and singing, and kind of seeing what the day in the life of these guys is right now over there in Israel on the Temple Mount. It's a nice contrast for going into the Great Tribulation. So speaking of that, now let's get into some of the news. Now, some of this may be what Fury was talking about, to where this isn't indicative of attacks, but here's, in case it is, here's what was reported by BP Earthwatch.
February the 18th, 2026. Guys, we've been watching this tension going back and forth between the U.S. and Iran, and Straits of Hormuz getting, closed down temporarily over missile exercises. Well, now, Tehran has announced, and they announced it even to NOTAM, but they're going to have live missile launches across certain areas of the nation tomorrow. And so it's basically a no-fly zone there. And I noticed that Congress, probably the Democrats and the Rhinos, are trying to get a bill passed, or pushing it, to stop Trump from acting in any kind of military aspect, as far as calling a war, calling a strike on whatever. You might take out some of their Venezuelan people. You understand what I'm saying? Anyway, it's not working, because right now we're seeing reports. Now, I don't think mainstream here in the U.S. is reporting it, but it looks like military bases in Iran and military-type warehouses and locations are being hit as we speak. This came in a few hours ago. It says smoke rises over over Paran near Tehran after blast heard. And this is what I was talking about. Just over an hour ago, Iran issues NOTAM warnings of planned rocket launches on Thursday. Iran has issued a notice to air missions, NOTAM, indicating planned rocket launches across parts of southern Iran on Thursday between 3:30 and 13:30 GMT. So about 10 hours there, most of the day or most of that time. Anyway, their airspace is slightly open right now. When we're going to look at the live air traffic maps, but it's not. You can still tell that the major air traffic lanes are going either south of there or north of there. There's a little bit right up around Tehran, and a couple of other jets are larger jets, but they're not going to. Of course, these air traffic maps, guys, and these trackers, there's a lot of stuff that gets turned off during a wartime or war movement, and that's understandable. But there's a little more going on than what we think. Now, that explosion I showed you was just one of many. Again, another angle of a different explosion. That's what they're hearing, the explosions. They're seeing the fires go down. Again, military bases and military-type warehouses and support areas. Again, I haven't seen much as far as the mainstream media anywhere really talking about this. But Reuters is saying 6 hours ago, notice your time today, from Dubai, a fire broke out in Iran's Paran near the Now, there's not a lot of information coming out, but this is from Reuters. This is coming out of Dubai today, February 18th. It says fire breaks out near Iran's capital, Tehran, state media says. And what they're trying to say is that it was a grass fire. You saw the big column of black smoke, plus the reports from the cell phone users that were capturing this, saying it was a very loud explosion. Now, there may be some grass fires because of that, but again, it's part of misinformation during the smoke of war, you may want to call that. But it said, again, the fire broke out in Iran's Paran near the capital city of Tehran. State media reported on Wednesday, publishing video of smoke rising over the area, which is close to several military and strategic sites in the country's Tehran province. Again, guys, I think Trump has just started coming down on this thing. Also, I mentioned the island Garcia, Diego, and that Britain is trying to give it away and say it's going to be leased out. But then when Trump and his administrators went and talked to the UK Prime Minister, they said he mentioned a fictitious name that it was leased to. And that's very strategic. That's where the planes were launched from there, and aircraft carriers that took out Tehran's nuclear site. Remember hitting the underground bunkers and stuff? Anyway, that's how strategic it is. So Trump is saying, to hell with that. And this is from Donald Trump, and he's talking about Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK. I think it was yesterday, guys, I saw information that he was already starting to implement Sharia law to a very large extent there in the UK. Maybe that's why we're seeing some Hollywood freaks of nature move back to the U.S. I don't know. Let's see. Again, he's saying that this lease is no good. He says Starmer is making a big mistake by entering a 100-year lease with whoever it is that is claiming that right, title, and interest to Diego Garcia, strategically located in the Indian Ocean. Our relationships with the UK is a strong and powerful one, and it has been for many years, but Starmer is losing control of this important island by claims of entities never known before. And so what we're looking at, guys.
That is another thing that I have been kind of hearing today is there's been a lot of alien talk because reasons. That's another interesting thing. Even Fury had mentioned that Trump was supposedly preparing an announcement talking about aliens.
Guys, as Europe has collapsed because of mass migration and very poor leadership. Now we're starting to see it creep over. I said once you get a few cities involved in any nation that is taken over that way, like New York is going to be, it's going to creep pretty fast. And so that's something you got to keep an eye on, any nation you're in, right? But he says, our relationship has been good, but he's losing important control of the important island by people that he claims and they think are fictitious. Should Iran decide not to make a deal, it may be necessary for the U.S. to use Diego Garcia and the airfield located in Fairford in order to eradicate a potential attack by a highly unstable and dangerous regime. He's talking about Iran there, but, it makes me wonder with these European leaders and how they've devolved instead of evolving, will their military follow them? Because it looks like they are totally against the U.S., and we got a couple of battles on our hands in that area, of course, Iran and the other fires that are being started from Israel and other places. But if Europe decides to get into this, then it's going to be a terrible mistake for them, but it could be a problem for us too. First thing that would happen Russia would completely take over what little is left of Ukraine, because the European attention would be pushed south instead of towards the east. And I don't think they're going to be very happy. Depends on we know that Iran and China and Russia have a deal going on, right? But I don't think either one of those guys really care about Iran. They care about the oil, because a lot of oil goes to China right now. Russia has other strategic interests in that area. But would they step forward into a battle against the U.S.? I don't know about that. But we got some fools in the U.K. that may. And you're talking about a world war, right? They're saying that an attack that would potentially be made on the United Kingdom as well as other friendly countries. Prime Minister Starmer should not lose control for any reason of Diego Garcia by entering a tenuous, at best, 100-year lease. This land should not be taken away from the UK and...
All right, we've already read this. Let's move on to the next report. So this is from Tim Pool. I wanted to listen to him because he actually has contacts in the government. He has a lot of them on his show. And if he's saying this, then that's an interesting thing to pay attention to.
Post was made reportedly on 4chan stating that war with Iran is about to begin. What I can add to this is that my sources also indicate war with Iran is about to begin. I can't see the future. I don't have access to anything super high level, but let me just say, we here at Timcast, we've got a lot of sources, a lot of connections in government, as well as in contractors and institutions around this. And the general idea behind the scenes is the U.S. is about to start a war with Iran. There's a lot of reasons for this. It also may be a trick. Let me just add this before I read this viral post because, I'm not here to just be anybody's puppet, as it were. And it may be that there is a campaign right now to present to the public that war is about to begin to force Iran to surrender. That is,
that'd be interesting.
You spread these messages around, sources contact personalities, things like this, and say, we're going to go to war with Iran. Then when I come out and say it, in Iran, they see all of this media attention saying the U.S. is prepared to go to war, and it scares them, and they back down. Obviously, that's preferable. But I'm here to tell you the truth, not just what people are telling me is true. So we don't really know for sure if we will get a war. I honestly think it's possible that posts like this are made for psychological operation reasons. Let me read this for you, and then I'll show you the current military deployments. It is reported that about a third of the U.S. Navy is currently near Iran.
I don't think that's true.
Check this out. This guy says, apparently this was posted on 4chan. If true, it will be nuts. This could be fake. Honestly, I have no idea. It's got 700,000 views, and it reads, Anonymous. It posted yesterday with a 36-hour timeline. We are now in the 24-hour window. Look for a significant number of Iranian leadership to be exterminated. The leadership of Iran is made up of a secret council of 22 military and political leaders who meet regularly in a bunker in Tehran. One of their members is a Mossad agent. Needless to say, this group goes first. Israel knows after the last few years, this is the time to end this show, and tactical nukes will take out most of Iran's missile infrastructure in the first strike. Tehran will go in the first wave with a false flag attack set up for Israel to kick things off. Cheers. Followed up by saying, Venezuela, or actually this was, I believe this was previous. Venezuela was a test for what is happening in Iran. A large part of the Iranian military and leadership will be vaporized in the opening salvos. Israel will use tactical nukes to take out Iranian missiles and their bases.
Wouldn't that be amazing if there was, with Daniel 12 saying that Michael stands up and in the time of great tribulation, wouldn't it be awesome if it was the enemies of God that were suffering the tribulation? Like justice and judgment is being poured out. That would be amazing.
We're about T-minus 3 days now. So presumably sometime within today or the next day or so. Now, what I have heard from my sources is that it's basically now. Talks have stalled and the U.S. is prepared to strike. Take a look at this. This is a post from Ian Ellis, who he is a podcaster. I don't know what else, just podcaster. After the Gerald R4 carrier strike, U.S. will have two aircraft carriers and 15 destroyers to work with across combatant commands. Approximately 33% of the deployed U.S. Navy fleet is represented below, which can carry 600 plus TLAMs. So we can see here major deployments, and these have been happening for quite some time. I think we're going to war. I think that's the play. That's the plan. And I wonder. What I will say is this: in that post where they say one of the 22 military leaders is a Mossad agent, I believe that's a trick. It's kind of like this. You ever hear that old prank? Funny. You get 3 pigs and you number them 1, 2, and 4.
This is hilarious. If you want to turn an enemy against themselves, you plant seeds of doubt about those who are among your ranks. And this illustration that Tim gives is a really good one.
4, and then you release them in your dorm or college or whatever.
Here, let me start over.
And then you get 3 pigs and you number them 1, 2, and 4, and then you release them in your dorm or college or whatever. The point is, someone finds pig number 1, number 2, and number 4, and they say there's still a third pig missing somewhere. In fact, there were only ever 3, but that's the point. The idea with this is that by saying one of the guys is Mossad, they all start to wonder who's betrayed them, when in fact, no one actually has.
That's genius.
But that mistrust will spread, and there's nothing you can do about it. They will then turn on each other. It's meant to sow discord, because now you don't know who you can trust. A leaked message appearing on the internet saying one of your military leaders is secretly working with Israel? Makes sense. You know, one of the key elements of getting away with a crime is to do it alone. There's a wild story out in the western suburbs of Chicago about a bank robber who got away with it for years. Never got caught to this day.
All right. He does a lot of rambling. What I found interesting is I do value his connections. Everything is pointing to war with Iran, which I think fits with where we are in the end times. It seems as though seal number 5 is marking a shift towards a global war. So far, all signs are indicating that this is where we're at. Definitely the days ahead are going to be more revealing. Now, if we get in like a month, if we get in like 2 or 3 weeks and nothing has happened and, peace is made, we're going to have to seriously reevaluate where we are in the timeline. But as it stands right now, it looks as though we're going to war, and it looks like it's going to be very likely global. So this will have an impact on everybody and everything. And it's probably going to get worse and worse and worse up until something dramatic takes everybody's attention away from the war. And that'll probably be the return of Yeshua, the Son of Man, appearing in the clouds. Well, will very likely will change people's attention towards that. And that looks like it's close to when Christ is coming back to redeem the earth. So I don't want to say this because it just sounds stupid. I hope that's what it is. Not the return of Christ. Obviously, that's what I'm looking for. But the Great Tribulation, that's what it sounds stupid to wish for. But you know what I do hope it is I hope that I hope that the majority and the primary focus of the tribulation is on evil people, that justice is finally poured out, that judgment is poured out on those who are evil. And that, before you know it, Christ returns. That would be absolutely amazing. All right, let's move on to Truth on the Streets. This one's a little, this is one of the things that we're trying to do in the show now is bring attention to the homeless, mental illness, drug addiction epidemic. This is based on Matthew 25. What should you be doing while we wait for Jesus to return? Well, do you want to be counted with the sheeps or the goats? I and my family, we want to be counted with the sheep. So we're looking for every opportunity that we can make sure that we're helping those in need and not selfishly taking care of just ourselves, because it's probably tempting to do that in a time of great tribulation, to worry just about you and yourself and your family. If you see somebody laying in the street, if you see a tent on the sidewalk and it's cold, the winter is coming and nobody's asking that person if they have a place to stay. You don't have to provide the shelter, but don't be afraid to go ask that person, hey, has anybody offered you a place to stay? Is there anybody I can call for you? You can always call the sheriff or the police and have them help that person into a shelter. But think of it like that. It's just like, that's why I really like what it is that Kevin is doing here, is he gives you an example of what it looks like to help those in need, because this is one of the things that Jesus does when he returns. He separates the sheep from the goats. Those who fed him when he was hungry, clothed him when he was naked, visited him when he was in prison. It's setting an example of loving your neighbor as yourself. So let's have a look at this. This is more on the positive side of the homelessness. This is a gentleman who's kind of built a nice little housing area, but still without a home.
Marine Park with John, probably the most concentrated homeless camps, possibly in the state, but definitely in the city. We found this interesting house here. It's a hand-built small house with a fence. And I'll just come and peek inside and show you. Really kind of feels like it's almost a yard here. Obviously there's a lock in here, swinging gate. You go inside, it's actually a pretty well-built house. The yard's a little messy, but this is just the natural result when you have a system that's like unable or unwilling to end homelessness. But another way of looking at it too is maybe this person wants to live off the grid and this is what they choose, right? And they just want to be left alone. The argument becomes, do we leave them alone or not? Mm-hmm. Are they bothering us being this deep in the woods, which is technically a public park?
There you go. There's another side of the homelessness. Just continuing to cover those aspects so that we can be aware of. Let's close out with and then we'll move into a question. I like this guy, the Torah channel. He usually has a good message every day.
Shalom, guys. Hope all is well. As you see in the title, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up and get ready for the big things that are on the way. We have to remember that we are being watched closely by none other than the Almighty, than the Creator of the world, Hashem. And He is watching us, watching our every move to see if we're serving Him as is fit. And really to see if we're doing what's right. If we're doing what's right between us and God and between us and our fellows. And really, when we make ourselves aware of this, that we're being watched by Hashem, we remind ourselves that the King of Kings, the King of Kings, Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is watching us. When we remember that,
it's not wrong.
Surely our hearts will be moved to serve Him as He deserves. So, I say this now in this final generation, that we are in the last generation, the generation that will experience the redemption, the final generation, the last generation of exile, and the first generation of the coming of Mashiach, that the Messiah will arrive, God willing, in our lifetime.
Are you guys just as blown away as I am to where both Jews and Christians are looking for the Messiah? They're expecting him for the first time. We're expecting him to come back because we know he's alive.
Lifetimes.
It boggles my mind that the timing of it all, that God knew that that the effect that everything that's happening would have this effect on us, and that we're all looking for him at the same time. And those who aren't, when he does arrive, are going to be mourning and hiding themselves.
Our life, in my lifetime, your lifetime, in this generation, because the Rebbe said actually over 30 years ago that we are in the final generation. So how much closer are we right now, 30 years later? It can happen at any moment. Yeah. And you have the power to trigger it. When you choose to do that extra good thing, that extra mitzvah,
I kind of disagree with him on this. I don't know if there's anything we can do to trigger it, considering there are preordained events that are intended to happen before he returns. So I don't know if they've got that one right. Maybe we can address that in our addressing the House of Israel. How it is that there's this idea that you can trigger the return of Mashiach. Yeah, I don't think you can. I think it's going to happen when it's going to happen.
Extra infinite act, which to you might seem small, whatever it is, maybe just giving that extra coin to charity, to tzedakah. When you do that extra good deed, that can be enough to trigger the redemption, because the Rambam, the Holy Rambam, says that we have to see the world always at a 50-50 scale, and that one extra good deed can be enough to tip it and bring the redemption. So guys, in these final moments, ask yourselves, how can I be doing more to bring the redemption? How can I do that one extra thing? And
I mean, I kind of get it. I mean, you kind of get what it is that he's saying. It's just like, focus on, loving your neighbor as yourself. I think that's kind of what he's saying. The fact that they're saying that it's like good deeds in a balance, that once the balance reaches a certain weight, that the Messiah is going to return. I mean, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with the fulfillment of the Gentiles when all of those who are written in the Lamb's Book of Life are sealed. So maybe there is a little something to it, but it just feels weird to present it that way. Like, if you do that one extra deed tomorrow, then Christ can finally return. Like it's like he's waiting on you to do one last good deed. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't laugh about it, but it seems silly to me on the surface because I believe that he's going to return when his Father sends him to return, when the time is right. Maybe that's dependent on us. Maybe if you look at it from the perspective of that last person being sealed, whose name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, kind of like the wheat and the tares, when that last ear, that last wheat is finally ripe, then it's time for the harvest. Maybe from that perspective, I could see it.
It could be whatever it is in your life. If it's in the service of Hashem, if it's in an act of kindness, if it's helping another, doing a favor for another, that is particular to each and every one of you. And a lot of times it's that thing that is small, but for some reason is hard for you. That is where you can bring the light.
Amen.
And
do
always
things that are hard.
See where you can be a messenger of God to accelerate the redemption. So guys, I want to wish you a big blessing. We should all get excited and get ready for the redemption and check our ways and understand and accept that it's time to improve ourselves, and also that Hashem will help and He accepts us and loves us and will accept our teshuvah, our returning to Him. So may Hashem bless you all, and let us all get excited and get ready for the final redemption, for the full coming of Mashiach. May it happen speedily in our days. Check us out for more info. God bless you all.
Amen. I love that channel. He's always got something positive to say. All right, you guys have any questions? So just basically today was, covering our daily torment report. Same old stuff there. For the most part, they're talking about what's going on around the world, the atrocities and the advancements, blah, blah, blah. But with watching the opening of seal number 5, I thought it would be interesting to go through and just cover like the events that are happening. One thing I have found valuable is that by recording these things in the video, when you go back in hindsight and look at the videos that were recorded around the days of these events, they're very informational. They're very informative about what ultimately ended up happening. So by covering the weather and covering what's happening on the Temple Mount and and what's happening with the movement of the ships and stuff like that, ultimately you can just see God moving. You can see the events that we're expecting to happen be set up, and it just gives glory to God to that these things things are happening the way He said they would happen. It proves the Bible. It proves His Son is the Messiah, and it proves that He's going to return because God gave this information to His Son to share with us, so that when they begin to happen, and that's what this show is today, was like, when these things begin to happen, you will believe. So anybody got a question? If you got a question you want to ask me, put a Q or the word question in front of it. If there's anything you want to talk about before we go. Tomorrow, what do we do tomorrow? Tomorrow, maybe we'll, if there's nothing interesting to talk about, which I can't imagine there's not going to be anything interesting to talk about. We may get into the chiastic structure of Revelation. I got some fun things there that I'd like to share. It's very interesting. If you look at the book of Revelation, Revelation 1 and Revelation 22, you can basically divide it into 8 chapters or 8 sections, if you will, that mirror each other, which is very interesting. 7 to 8. This isn't a new idea. This isn't something that I invented or recognized. It started with Frank something back in 1997. I'll share. I'll share all this information when I get my notes out. If we do end up covering this tomorrow. But by looking at the chiastic structure, is we can learn about more. We can learn more details about the stuff that's written. And there's definitely things I don't know, obviously. But by looking at that chiastic structure, I think it can inform our expectations, like what we can expect given what we know. And it can also correct things we may have wrong. So, all right, I don't see any questions popping up. Let me go see the other chat because this one sometimes freezes. Oh, yeah. So this Fury brought this up, the death count. And this has actually come up a couple of times that I don't think it's being properly reported. The amount of people who have passed away since, I don't know, let's say 2019, since COVID. Because one of the data points in the end times is the death toll. And there's certain periods of time where that are marked by a certain amount of death. Now, what we can gather from what's been reported, it's about half a billion people have what is the rate? It's not per year. I think it's since 2019. Let me go look. Well, this is something we can get into tomorrow, the statistics. There are some statistics. I think when I was doing some calculations, I was just asking Grok and looking at the different sources where they track the death rate, and they do calculations. It was like 500 million, which falls 3/4 short of the 2 billion that were expected during seal number 4. So seal number 4 seemed to last 5 years. So I think that there is data that's not being calculated in the number. And I base that based on the reports that I hear from ER doctors, to where since the Biden administration's reckless unenforcement of drugs, and the massive immigration into the country, the ER departments have recorded, a significant increase in overdoses and deaths from like fentanyl. A lot of those go unreported. People who die on the street. A lot of those can go unreported. So there's an increase there. There's also an increase in from the pandemic for obvious reasons, because they don't want people to think anybody screwed up. There's there's an increase. So morticians, you don't really see this on YouTube, but if you go on Rumble, that's kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down, is to listen to the morticians talk about the things they're finding in the body since people started taking the mRNA vaccine. Now, I'm not saying one way or another, YouTube, so don't take me off the internet. I'm not saying one way or the other regarding the vaccine, just that there's a data point associated with that technology that could be a factor that should be counted and calculated. And I think that we may be able to figure out what is being counted so that we can find the gaps of what's not being counted, and see if we can get to that number, see if there's enough information. Because why else would God tell us that a certain number of people would pass away during a particular period of time if it wasn't meant for us to be able to validate that information? So I think that was given so that it's a data point that we can validate. And if you have any ideas or any sources for how we can do that, it'd be great if somebody's already done the work that we can just point to. But if they haven't done the work, maybe it's something that we can start. So we could do that tomorrow too. So depending on how news and stuff like that goes, maybe those are the two things that we'll cover: the chiastic structure and starting to validate some of this other information that we have that points to particular periods of time. All right. Well, I don't see any new questions popping up. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this content, make sure you like the video, hit the subscribe button. We're here Monday through Friday at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I don't work on the weekends. I encourage everybody to take the Sabbath day off, which simply means do something different than what you do normally. I know some people have a problem what it means to take the Sabbath off. It's a day that God rested. Jews have 39 things. They have a list. If you want a list of things that you should or should not do, we can maybe get you that list. But for me, it's a matter of spending time with my family and spending time with God. Those are the two most important things. And neighbors. Family, God, and neighbors. And friends, family, God, and neighbors. And most importantly, not doing stuff that I do every day. Like, I literally have to force myself to stop working because I will edit videos and write software if I don't force myself to stop doing that kind of thing. It's good for the mind, it's good for the soul, and it's something that God even did. So he set the example, we should follow it. So we recommend that you do that here as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow, which is the day before the Sabbath. So I gave this speech a day early. Anyway, God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.